Hello and welcome to the Ignition podcast. Now I know what you're thinking, it's just me stood inside Ignition Cars and Coffee. We will go to the podcast crew in a second, but down to a bit of a technical cock-up, we somehow lost the introduction of us lot talking. So the only bit really missing is our week in cars, so I can give you a bit of a summary. Believe it or not, Ed's actually bought a car. I'm as shocked as you are. It's a Porsche Boxster S and it's almost identical to the one that Phil has got, which is a bit strange because Ed wasn't a fan of that car, but there we go. Phil's been messing around with his cars as normal. He's recently fitted some decap pipes or something like that to his M2. As he was talking about German cars, I kind of fell asleep. It's not that interesting to me. And Chris has been 3D printing bits for his Nissan 350Z to try and tighten up the interior and make it feel a bit less plasticky and tacky, which the thing does inside. Great car, apart from the interior, it's really the only weakness. I've been tinkering with the Ferrari, trying to get it ready for a potential road trip, although as the weather looks awful and there might be salt on the roads at the weekend, probably not going to be taking it, and maybe going in the 4C if we go at all, but we'll wait and see. The 4C's recently had a new exhaust. It was done by Johnny at EcoMax Tuning in Peterborough. They did a custom fabricated back box which has got a valve on it to have a noisy mode and a quiet mode, so that's great. And that's really it as a bit of a quick summary of our week in cars. So we'll flip over now to the usual crew on the podcast as we recorded it last night before I cocked it all up. Thank you. Been a pretty rocky start to our road trip.
At least it has got a name though, rather than just a number.
That's true. But it has got a number as well.
Oh, good.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the romance of imperfection. So this is a subject about how some cars come out when they're new and they're not viewed very well. They get bad reviews, they get bad reputation, whatever. But over time, they get seen as being, more favourable. So I guess how I see it is that when cars are new, there's certain things that would be unacceptable. I guess that you buy a new car, you want it for convenience, you can use it every day. You're not going to tolerate so many compromises. But as a car gets older and your use changes for it, I mean, maybe some cars you buy new you do use just at the weekends, but as a car becomes classic, people don't tend to use them as much, and you can tolerate more downsides to it, and you appreciate more of the character and the more interesting elements to it. Does that make sense? I think so. That's how I see it. I've had quite a few cars like that you read the reviews when they're new and people are hating on this thing, and you're like, why is that? I absolutely love this car. I don't understand. But I think that's changed quite a bit over time sometimes. So, Ed, you had some points on that, didn't you?
Yes, I did, yes.
Sorry, this is the third time we've had to discuss this because of recording issues.
Sorry, I tried to keep a straight face otherwise.
Yeah. So. We can't wait to hear because we haven't heard it yet.
So for me, it's more sort of theme, as we all know. So. And I think there's sort of a couple of main categories for me. So there's a whole naturally aspirated type cars. When I look at cars which I want to own now, sort of older cars, sort of cars where ironically, if you go back sort of 20, 30 years, everyone wanted a turbocharged car, a supercharged car. Remember, you'd have the sort of logos on the back of the cars and then turbo and things like that. Now it's the idea of revving out a naturally aspirated car for me. So actually, the cars that I want now weren't necessarily the cars which were the greatest. I mean, for example, a Civic Type R is probably quite a good example. It probably wasn't the best hot hatch in 2005, say. Probably people would more like to buy a Mark 5 Golf GTI, weren't they? But now the idea of a 8,000 RPM Civic Type R sounds far more engaging, which also leads quite nicely on to the next topic, which is manual gearboxes. So a Civic Type R is probably quite a good example of that, where you've got a really sort of notchy manual gearbox, and I think it's a perfect sort of antidote to your sort of electric dailies where you sort of twist a dial into drive and you stay in that dial until you've stopped at the end of the day. So I think they're my main things. So, you know, we touched on Ferraris on the other two takes of this, and you know, obviously there's a whole manual F1 gearboxes. If you look at, say, the 5360 or 355, and at the time people almost saw the F1 gearbox as a desirable one, and you look at the prices now, and the manuals have far exceeded the prices of the autos. So I suppose for me, they're sort of my main two topics that I wanted to discuss on repeat. So
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, look, like the F1 gearbox was like a £7,000 or £8,000 option on those cars, and people were speccing them on every single one, and now everybody wants the manuals, even though they were cheaper when they were new. So yeah, it's a really good one. Interesting though, Golf Mark 5 GTI, classic or tragic?
Tragic.
a very original, tidy one with red and tartan interior, I think, is becoming classic.
Phil, Chris.
What do they call the wheels? Were they like, you know, like 5-spoke?
I do like those wheels.
Good wheels. We're going back to our cool wheels from the other week.
Yeah,
that is a good wheel.
I can speak from first-hand experience. They're a nightmare to refurb, because I had a Mark 5 GTI when they were, I don't know, 5 or 6.
I remember.
Yeah. Oh, you did. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
That was whether you would have ever seen.
Clemson Clark, I think you were at when you had that.
I would have been, yeah. And it had those wheels, but they're two-tone, aren't they? The bits inside the crescents are grey and the front silver, and they were all skanked up, and I didn't have any money, so I tried to refer to them myself. They look terrible, I think. Anyway, Chris, classic or tragic?
Middle ground.
I think it's in between the two. It's possibly a bit tragic, but I think Ed's right. It's going to become classic, I think.
It's almost not old enough.
Definitely on that. It's definitely on the barrel of that curve, isn't it?
it's on the swingometer, isn't it, as to whether it is.
Yeah.
Do we think the Mark IV is ever going to move out of tragic?
No.
No.
Maybe
It's in Bora territory, isn't it?
The Bora comes up far too often, doesn't it? In our conversations. Yeah. No, you're right. That's really, some good points. So, like you say, at one point in time, everyone would have an automatic. And probably the funny thing is now, like, even when manuals were a bit more common a few years ago, for new cars, a lot of people would choose to buy an automatic. But when they get a bit older, like if you were speccing a new M3 5 years ago, most people would go for an automatic if they're going to use it every day. But in 20 years' time, people would want the manuals, wouldn't they? So
yeah,
that's interesting. What about you, Phil? You got any views on this?
Yeah, I suppose you've just mentioned BMWs, and a car that was tragic in its when it was first released, which I think was like 2007, 2008, was the E60 M5. The E60 5 Series BMW. Overweight, ugly. Some people called it, like a new stylings of the BMW era. But it just was too far removed at the time from the previous 5 Series, until they went and whacked a stonking V10 in it, which was an awesome engine, still is, and it's now become super desirable because it was the last sort of naturally aspirated V10 fitted to a family daily car.
Yeah.
And really, the M5s following on from that, they've not been anything other than a family saloon with a fancy engine in.
They're a bit generic, aren't they, M5s?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could tell the difference between the next shape and the one after it.
No, there is very little difference. But the E60 now, after being slated for all those years, actually stands out in the crowd. It's got them really nice. I love the rear lights on the E60s, the big sort of
like
fan
eyelashes type things.
Yeah. Not
Fans,
like them stupid Beatles.
Fans are more manly, aren't they? Not eyelashes.
You have eyelashes if you want, but I think they're a fan. And I'm a fan of the fan lights.
Very good.
And again, those cars, I think the E60 was available, obviously in manual with a pathetic little 2-litre diesel engine right up to the V10. But they had SMG gearbox, which is people slate the SMG gearbox, but it's not that bad as long as you're not expecting F1 change performance.
Well, it is a single clutch automated manual, isn't it? So it's like their equivalent of Ferrari's F1, but it's very different to the dual clutch that came after it. BMW are a really good example of this because they often, the newest BMW when it comes out, people moan about it, and then as it takes people a while to sort of
Look at the big grills on the
well,
M3.
I don't think we're ever going to like that, but maybe we'll.
Well, I shall be. I like them.
What?
I like them. I also like the new M2.
No, you like.
I don't think it should be called an M2 because it's too big.
No, the M2
I
doesn't
don't
have
hate
it.
it as much as I used to.
The
No,
M2
the
doesn't
new
have it.
M2's got quite a big grill, hasn't it? Quite.
It's more that way on the M2, isn't it? Rather than
But I won't be buying an X7 or an XM.
X7 or a 7 Series. You fancy one
No.
of those?
No, they're just too big. They're just like small villages, aren't they?
Horrendous. But yeah, I think something about BMW often are good at catching it before the curve, if that makes sense. They come out with something that's going to be fashionable ahead of time.
The E90 never has. That's one I will definitely say. The E90 has never and never will, I don't think. Not like the E60s.
It's never been a pretty car, has it, the E90?
No, and never will be.
what do you think about the coupe? The E92, isn't it? The coupe.
I quite like the E90 and the E92, to be honest.
No,
I
the
think
coupe's nicer in the 1 Series. When the 1 Series coupes were around, like the 1M and things was a lot nicer than
E90 and E92. I think they're a nice car, personally.
E92 M3s, I think one of the nicest looking M3s, if I'm being honest. So.
I had an E92 330D M Sport Highline or something a few years ago. I had to buy a stopgap car to use for work because I kept buying broken Italian cars and got to the point where I didn't have a working vehicle and literally had to go and buy a car to get to work the next day. And I bought an E92 330D M Sport Highline for about $5,000. Ran it for a year, put 25,000 miles on it. I think sold it for 6.5, something like that. And literally, I bought it, did nothing to it for a year. It was absolutely bulletproof, not a single problem with it. Did 40 to the gallon everywhere, and then sold it for more money. It was the only car I've ever managed to do that, and it was brilliant. But I think they look nice, but that's just me. The couple of cars I can think of in this scenario, some that I've owned, we've already talked about my 4C earlier, Alfa Romeo 4C. I think that's a really good example of this because when it came out, it got absolutely panned by the reviews. I think when people saw the car first and carbon tub sports car, there was a lot of hype about it, and then when people drove it, they really gave it a harsh time. And then we're going to do a video on the 4C, so I'll try not to cover this too much because we'll be crossing over. But it came out with a 1.75 litre engine, and everyone was like, "Oh, 4-cylinder turbo, surely it should have a V6 or something like that in it." But now, a lightweight, around a ton, 1.7. I mean, we talked about the Alpine A110 a few weeks ago as being our favourite car currently on sale, and that only has a 1.75 litre turbocharged engine in it as well. So I feel like that car makes more sense now than when it came out. The small turbocharged engine, lightweight, but at the time it was a real problem. So I think that's an example. And the other one I've owned is the Ferrari 348. And when that was new, it absolutely got panned. And a few of us went to see that Luca de Montezemolo documentary, and he called the 348 a shit Ferrari, didn't he? And he claimed that he got beaten by a Golf GTI at the time, which I frankly don't believe. I'm not one to call Luca de Montezemolo a liar, but I think that that's possibly the case in that instance.
But based on your 348, it was probably broken down.
Well, that might be what it is. What it meant was a working Golf GTI is faster than a broken Ferrari 348, maybe.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah, you're probably right.
I think that's probably
Then
right.
he's not lying, he's correct. But like my 348, the electric windows were terrible, the air conditioning, if you pressed any of the buttons, your finger would go straight through the dash and push the controller out the back. Like I say, the windows wouldn't really shut, and if they did, it wouldn't seal, and then if you opened them, it was really slow, and it'd take forever to come back up. So you had to kind of like choose between, you didn't have working air conditioning, so if it was really hot, you want to drop the window down, but then if it starts raining, you can't shut it again. It was, it was only really good in certain circumstances. But when it's an old car and it's a weekend toy, you kind of tolerate all of that for the noise and the manual gearbox and the V8 high revving Ferrari engine, all that. But when it was new in 1990, I can understand why people were a bit annoyed that their car that just cost the same price as a house, sort of some of the basic stuff doesn't work on it. And I remember looking through the service history on it, and in its first service in 91, all the same problems that I had with it were reported like a year old and with 1,000 miles on it or something. So it's not like it was just because it was 30 years old these were the problems. That's how it was when it was new. And you can kind of see why people bought Honda NSXs, can't you, at the time? Like,
And they're probably still going perfectly now.
yeah.
30 years later.
But personally, I mean, I know the Honda NSX is a really valuable car, but I would not choose a Honda NSX over a Ferrari 348. Like if I wanted a weekend toy now, I can't believe. I know the Honda NSX got a great engine, but that Ferrari 348, V8, it's an incredible bit of kit, the manual gearbox and everything. I can't, so that, for me, that car makes more sense now than it did when it was new. It's fine to tolerate as a classic, but when it was new, it was probably terrible.
Well, we've all driven your 348, and everybody liked it when we drove it, didn't we? Lots of people we know have driven it, and
no,
you just put up with its quirks.
Yeah, and it's fine.
But would you if it was a new car? No, I guess
you'd be really annoyed as a new car. Yeah. So I think that's sort of the thing is the theme is. So if you're looking for future classics, I guess maybe, and things that might appreciate, maybe looking at ones that are heavily flawed when new is not a bad idea, because the prices on them are going to tank, aren't they?
Like your Alfa Brera.
Brera is an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
And I think they're a really pretty car.
Very pretty car.
Has got a massive divide. They're like Marmite. They love them or hate them, don't they, people?
The problem with the Brera, like Alfa Romeo spent the last 30 years before the Brera being moaned at for making poor quality cars where everything falls apart and breaks. They bring the Brera out, and finally they've actually made something that feels quite Germanic when you sit inside a Brera 159, same chassis, but it doesn't drive like an Alfa, it drives like a German car. And now everyone's moaning about it, saying, "Oh, it's too heavy and it's too, it doesn't feel like an Alfa Romeo." So, they finally make something that doesn't fall apart, and everyone's moaning about it.
Incidentally, I had a Brera, and the engine would only start if you had the door open. And then never get to the bottom of the problem. Never found out why.
That's a very Alfa Romeo type problem, that is. But I bet you liked it because of that.
Yeah, it was quirky.
Nobody likes.
It wouldn't get stolen.
No, that's true.
Yeah, true.
Perhaps you've hit the nail on the head there, Chris. It was a ghost immobiliser of the 1990s.
Nobody likes people who are perfect at everything, are they? They're often quite boring. The person you like and want to spend time with and listen to their stories and stuff is the person who's a bit of a wrong and had a bad past. Well, that's an Alfa Romeo, isn't it? So that's the reality of it. That's a bit of character to it. Okay, good. So a more serious subject, I think it's something we should all be aware of that's potentially coming up, is the budget's due soon, isn't it? I think a couple of weeks' time, is it?
Is it 26th?
End of November?
End of November, I think, something like that. And they're talking about making a number of changes to the car world. So the one I'm sort of a bit concerned about is the proposed changes to classic car taxation. I don't know about whether they're planning to affect MOTs, but for you guys who don't know, if you have a car that's over 40 years old, it's currently road tax exempt. And the logic is behind that is that the cars that are 40 years old don't get used the same way that a more modern car does. And if people would have to pay road tax on them, they're likely just to store them and they'll never put them on the road. And so it's about encouraging that sort of motoring heritage, and the whole classic car industry is quite good for the UK economy. So I think that's part of it as well. It used to be, originally I think it was a rolling 25 years. And it got to the point when 25 years old was 1973. So when would that have been? That would have been 98? No,
Yeah. 98. Yeah.
98. And at that point, it then stopped. And it was then 1973 or older was it, wasn't it? That was what it was, and it stayed that way right up till, I don't know, 2018 or something. No, 13 I think rings a bell, something like that.
13 or 14.
Yeah.
It's quite recent, like 10, 15 years ago.
And then it started rolling at 40 years, didn't it? So yeah, 13 would make sense because it was 73 plus 40 years, wasn't it? And then it became a rolling 40 years. So it got to the point where now a 1985 car is road tax exempt, currently registered as a historic vehicle. Rachel Reeves apparently is planning on undoing that and having a taxation for classic cars. Now, 2 out of 4 of us on the screen have got road tax exempt classic cars, and I imagine at some point in time the other 2 on the screen would have one at some point. So what do you think, Phil, as my fellow classic car owner? What do you think?
I think it's ridiculous, as you say. It will force a load of cars off the road. But more of an impact is going to be on the industry, because classic cars, as we both know, obviously not mine because my wife might be watching this, can cost quite a lot. Yeah. Can cost quite a lot to keep on the road. Now that's there's a lot of people in the classic car industry, whether it be parts suppliers, oil suppliers, tyre suppliers, insurance companies, all reliant on the 330,000 classic cars that are in regular use. Events like ours at Ignition, we really want to see the classic cars. We need to see the classic cars. And I think just keeping them locked in your garage is a waste. They should be used. Me and Lewis both use our cars regularly throughout summer and winter, as long as they're not broken or too much salt on the roads. And I just think it would cause a lot of people to not use them, a lot of industries or a lot of subsidiary industries to fail and have to rethink what they do with their businesses. So I think we need to keep them tax-free. However, running an MOT station, I do think you should get your car MOT for safety's sake.
I think you should definitely do it. I like it being optional because, like, if you overrun slightly, the ability of not having to have it done straight away, but definitely if you use a trip or anything, and you have to take it for an MOT, certainly. I can say without doubt that my wife will never watch this. So I can be honest and say that
he's behind you.
I can be honest and say that I spent an absolute fortune on my old cars, and but I'm probably one of the few people that would tax it regardless. But my worry is that the people who, because I would run it right through winter anyway, whenever there's like enough of a gap between salt on the roads or whatever, I'll be out. But there's a lot of people who take them off the road through winter, sawn them. And my worry is that come the end of that winter, when it's that in-between weather, should I take it out for... They're
not going to bother.
No, they may not tax it in April because they might think, April might not be good enough. And then we might have a bit of bad weather over the weekend that overlaps April, May. And they might not tax it in May. And then they might think, I'm already halfway through the summer. What's the point? And if they're not doing that, they're not spending money on maintenance, they're not spending money on tyres, they're not buying coffees at Ignition Cars and Coffee, They're
also not buying fuel, which has a lot of duty on it that should benefit the government.
Yeah, that's my worry, is how much impact does it have. Did anybody look up how much money the government think they're going to raise from this? 100
million. Well, that's the figure they were banding around, wasn't it? Because I think it was about 220 and 330 or something. I think the sort of tax brackets, I think, depending on, was it done on size of engine, 15 or 1600 cc? I can't remember actually, but it was about 100 million. But again, as you say, there's a lot of people who probably only take their cars out to those 2, 3, 4 car shows a year, and I just don't see people bothering.
You can, I think, like I say, there's people who really are out in them all the time, like me, who will see the value in paying tax. I think Phil will be the same. You take the car out regardless. But there are people who, like I say, use them 4 or 5 times a year, and I don't think they will. And like in the winter, even if you're not driving it regularly, when a car's road tax exempt, it's easy to go and take it for a service, isn't it? I need to have it serviced, or I'm going to have this
bit of paint work,
bit of repair, welding, whatever. Yeah. So I'll nip it around the garage. I don't have to tax it. No problem. Don't have to MOT it either. I'll just nip it over there. If it's off the road, that's not going to happen, is it?
I think there's another point here as well, which is something we've touched on as a group, which is about men's mental health. And I'm not trying to claim my Corrado is a classic car, but it's
nearly
a sort of modern classic, I suppose, is probably how to describe it.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, I pay road tax on that. But I went to Halfords a couple of weeks ago, just like you do. I need to pick up a couple of bits, and I was already in Corrado, so I pulled into Halfords in Corrado, and sort of thought it's the sort of car where you think it's probably not Halford's clientele, like, you know, generally it's sort of modified, I don't know, Mark 5 Golf GTIs probably, isn't it? And I spent maybe 45 minutes, two separate blokes, similar sort of age, came over and talked to me about it, and probably had 45 minutes chatting to people in a Halford's car park. And I think it's the sort of shared happiness with a classic car. A modern car, you know, your Lamborghini, for example, is perceived as like a show-off's car, isn't it? Whereas a sort of classic car, like your Porsche behind you, Phil, you know, it makes you happy driving it, but it also makes other motorists happy seeing it. You stop at a petrol station, you talk to the old boy next to you at a petrol station, remembers when we were new or had when we were new. And I think there's that happiness passed on with it, isn't there? And it's not just about you owning it, it's about giving to other people who haven't seen one for years, or, you know, like the Corrado is fairly rare. People haven't seen one for several months or sometimes years, and we're seeing it. You know, it's a conversation, isn't it?
I think you're absolutely right what you're saying, Ed, about the and I always call it mutual car appreciation. You know, you can pull up next to somebody, and they're in their fairly modern, you know, Eurobox, and they'll give you the nod and the wave and oh, that's nice, and like you say, at the fuel stations, which we make regular visits to, that people will always say, oh, that's nice, you know, you had it long, and they make a bit of conversation, and yeah, it is good for people's mental health.
Did you
just as an ignition?
Yeah. Did you get either of the guys' numbers, Ed? Or?
Yeah, I still see him every weekend.
Have you had the first date yet? Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah, it's convenient for that.
First date,
Oh,
months ago.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point as well. Let's make it on that, because like Rachel Reeves is trying to tax men's mental health and well-being. Yeah. We might be able to win that argument. But no, I agree with you. You're right. It's so frustrating. Like, the type of people who are likely to own a classic car as a toy as well are probably the type of people who are going to be paying a hell of a lot of tax. I've already got the big burden on them from the tax system, is the reality of it. And it just feels like you can't, like, everywhere you turn at the moment, it's just tax, isn't it? So I find it a bit insulting. And so the classic car market, I did a bit of research, is worth just short of 5 billion a year in the UK. And, you know, 100 million is 2% of that. It's nothing.
It's nothing, is it?
So if there was 2% worth of damage to this, you could undo all that benefit, basically, of the I could see there being a 2% or 10% damage to this. Or
you've only got to look at jobs, haven't you? I mean, where Phil was coming from, and it's a skill which, once lost, can't be found again either. Actually, the sort of, you know, bodywork repair, panels, and bits and pieces like that. But as you say, it's such small fry in the ocean. But they don't care, is ultimately it. If they can raise 100 million from it, they'll raise 100 million from it. They don't care.
Well, they're stupid, because they might lose more than 100 million from it. That's the stupid reality of it. Because is that 100 million as well? I mean, have they realised that most people just won't tax them because they don't have to? And they won't actually get that 100 million. That's sort of the reality of it, you know, or people tax them half the year. The problem I can see, I mean, like we talked before, half the year people definitely won't tax them, then they'll be sawn. And then half of the year they may or may not, some will, some won't. So the amount of cars on the road will drop hugely for classic cars. But if you run a classic car restoration garage and it's another hurdle to somebody to bring a car in for being worked on over winter because it's not taxed, they're not going to. And, you know, seasonal businesses are not good. What are you going to do when your staff have got nothing to do through winter, but you need to keep them on for summer, it's not good. Every time there's a hurdle that you have to get over to do something, it's like a barrier to being able to do what you want to do. Less people jump that barrier, don't they? That's just the reality of it.
Because could you technically insure it via direct debit for a month and then just cancel it after?
Tax.
But again, it's a hurdle. But technically, you could probably do it cheaply. But
you still want to insure a car though, because if it gets stolen, so you want to insure 12 months a year.
You mean tax, don't you? Tax it.
Yes, I think that's what he meant. Yeah.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, but
I was just talking about tax. But you got a point on the insurance as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's a bad move, I reckon. But they're not just talking about taxing our beloved old classics, are they?
They want to hit the EV drivers now, don't they? Of which there's 3 on the screen.
Yeah. Maybe soon to be 4, Phil. You keep talking about it.
I have looked.
I'm going to dabble.
Tentatively.
Yeah, so what is it they're planning to do? Who's got the facts on it?
3 pence per mile paid up front. How are they doing that preemptively?
What I read was that they have no clue. This is a typical government thing. They've got to find ways of looking like they're going to generate money, but it's a completely hypothetical, theoretical thing from 2028 onwards that they're going to charge people 3p a mile. There's no mechanism to be able to do it or anything at the moment. So what the most that I've read into it is that what they think they're going to do is you're going to have to estimate at the beginning of the year how many miles you're going to do and pay it up front on some kind of online portal, and then they'll verify it with the MOT. That's what I've read.
And people definitely won't clock their cars, will they? At that point?
No. Johnny's business.
Well, you might struggle on an EV, but mileage-based pricing's been around. I mean, I think it was about 12 years ago. I worked on a bid for putting mileage-based payments in for lorry drivers coming from abroad. So stuff's been on the cards for at least 15 years to look down this path. That's just obviously a simple way of doing it to basically combat what they lose on field duty.
Did they have to put a black box in or something like that?
No, these would have been cameras back then.
How did they know how many miles a lorry did?
No, they were going to do it on lorries coming from abroad, so they'd basically just track the lorries into the country, out the country, and where they'd gone in the country.
So they're just charging a flat fee, I guess?
Per mile, whatever, or average on the miles. I mean, we were literally bidding in terms of the IT side.
Yeah, that sounds like a heavy IT processing thing to not achieve a lot.
But you look at how many cameras there are now out on the road and what they can do with them and what they can track.
It's a lot of data, though, isn't it, to go through and process?
Yeah.
I was driving earlier, and there was I don't know if it was a police drone or what, but there was a drone above the road that I was driving on, which I've never seen before. So, yeah, I think you track quite a lot in your cars, aren't you, now?
I think
you look at the telemetry. You look at the telemetry an EV sends back. Teslas shift gigs of data.
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, Ed had problems with your Hyundai, didn't you, with the amount of data and messages it was sending? But at the moment, I don't think there's something, that's built into every car that can go back to the government and tell you, collate that data.
No.
So that
hence why they're just suggesting something simple, isn't it, at the moment?
It doesn't sound simple, though, does it? You get to January, you're already skinned, and the government says, I want £800 for you because you might do 30,000 miles this year. I mean, no one's going to do it, are they? Everyone's going to say, I'll do 2,000 miles.
I mean, they could do the same as what you would do personally at this point, couldn't they? And look at where they could save money rather than how they can get more revenue.
That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Well, they're actually doing the opposite. They're doing the opposite.
But I think we're getting a bit political now, so maybe we should move the conversation on.
I was thinking... But business mileage.
Yeah.
Another complication to overhurdle, because if you're then going to claim... Ed, you do some serious business mileage, don't you, I think? How would you claim that back? And how would you differentiate whether you've used it for business or personal?
Because you shouldn't personally be paying for work mileage, should you? And obviously my work car doesn't do any personal miles, so...
Of course not.
All my cars will become work cars then.
For them?
all my cars will become work cars on that basis.
Where there's a will, there's a way, isn't there? That's the reality of it. Was it this
Or a Chris Lee.
Jurassic Park? Life will find a way. It's very frustrating. I was having to think about this actually earlier, and how our government and our country is just constantly take from us. But some countries in the world, their governments have been so successful with investment or whatever it is, they actually get paid a dividend from their government. Like, is it Norway have got the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and the people who live in Norway get paid a percentage of its revenue. And I think is it Saudi Arabia? They get something like $2,000 a month per person just from the government, and they're actually got. I'm sure it is. So I have to check it.
But they sell oil rich, aren't they?
Yeah. But I mean, we've got massive oil reserves in the North Sea. That's the reality of it. But it's just we've chosen to not take advantage.
Well, I think we try and maintain our security, aren't we, as a country? Where Saudi Arabia aren't protecting their oil security, but then it's all they've got. So obviously you're going to.
I think also they're a much smaller population, so it's not as much of a it's easier to share that around. They have less general overhead costs as a country. But I can't help but think Britain is one of the richest countries in the world. It had a massive empire at some point with vast amounts of wealth from it. Nobody has invested that well as in the government to actually generate income. You think the opportunity that a 2.3 trillion, or no, I think it's £3 trillion economy we've got now, $3 trillion, I think. The opportunity there to be well invested and actually generate wealth. The government should be doing that, not like whatever they are doing. I don't think
it's more than 3 trillion, because isn't Elon Musk getting a $1 trillion paycheck if he gets Tesla to a certain point?
Yeah, but I think the UK economy is about 3 trillion, something like that. It is in like 20 years' time. His trillion he's going to get, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Well, I can't remember. I read somewhere where they said, "Do we realise that we're all incentivising a megalomaniac to flood the world with robots and drones?" Sounds like a great idea. Definitely not the making of a science fiction film, but yeah, that's my view. Our government needs to work out how to actually make money for us. That's what they should be doing, rather than just pillaging the whole time. But that's probably as political as we should get. So
yes.
Okay, so fantasy road trip. Phil, you came up with this one, didn't you?
I did.
Do you want me to read it out, or have you got it to hand?
No, you read it out.
You just love to hear my voice, don't you? It's because you can't remember it, can you? Right, very on topic, talking about the Chancellor. So good one, this is, Phil. So here's the challenge. The Chancellor has finally got her way. Virtually every classic car in the UK is confined to barracks and garages, destined never to move on public highways of the UK again. However, she missed a very small but exciting loophole. We are able to import classic cars from the Southern Hemisphere as long as they are driven from the seller's location back to the UK. It's a very specific loophole, but sounds good. Within the loophole, there are constraints. It must be petrol, over 40 years old, and must be legal to drive in the UK. The car must be able to travel back to Stamford, Ignition HQ, under its own power with yourself, your co-driver, and all the luggage you took on the journey there with you. You must also collect a souvenir from the country you bought the car from that will really identify you as both a renegade and a petrolhead. The vehicles will be shown at a classic car show just outside of Stamford at a well-known Cars and Coffee event. They'll also be judged for originality, so modified cars are out of the question. And then you've given us the budgets. Posh, whoever that is 0 to 25,000. Phil is 25 to 50,000. Chris is 55 to 70,000. And Ed, 75 to 200,000. That's a good one, Phil. That's a good one. So
I think it's you to start. You've got the silliest budget.
Oh, is it me? Right, there we go. Okay, so £25,000, Southern Hemisphere, has to be over 40 years old, and petrol, not modified. Being an Alfa Romeo owner, I specifically know that there's quite a lot of decent classic cars in South Africa. So that's where I started looking. Now, I think someone else has got a South African Alfa Romeo, so I'm not going to steal the story on that. But I've had a couple. I've had 2 South African imports. So I thought that's the best place to look. But the car I really wanted was an Alfa Romeo 105 series. I've had a few in the past, loved them, and they were the South African imports I had, but I couldn't find any in budget. 25,000 just not enough to get one of those. So what I have found is a 1967 Lancia Fulvia.
Nice choice.
Really cool car. It's a 1300 Rally. It's not Zagato, which is what I've had in the past, but it's the normal bodied car. And it's £12,600.
What a bargain.
They've actually got a price on there to have it shipped back to the UK for £1,500. I'm quite tempted with it. I mean, I don't have any money at the moment because I keep spending on fixing other cars, but I think that's an absolute bargain of a car. It looks really tidy. When we went to that car show, the Classic Motor Hub, there's one parked up there, weren't there, Phil?
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger than I thought it'd be in the flesh, and I thought that's a really nice car, really nice car. So £12,600, 67 leaves me with plenty of change to pay bribes and whatever else I need to pay to get home, because I've watched a few videos on crossing Africa. It's a bit interesting. So that's the car. For me, I think it'd be brilliant. It's got a decent boot, it's got room inside, raughty little 1300 V4 engine, twin Weber carburetors, or it might be Solex actually on those. My one had Solex on it, I think it'd be really cool. I misread part of this challenge. I didn't realise that the souvenir had to come from the country you bought the car from. I've kind of picked it up on the way home.
I think that's totally acceptable.
Is it? That's allowed? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to remember the name of the flipping place. I'm sure I wrote it down. Oh, right, okay. So when I was in Spain last year, my wife spotted some pottery for sale. And a town where we go near, it's called Lisbon, is like famous for pottery. And the great thing about it is it's really cheap because it's in Spain. So whilst you're there, if you've driven there as well, you can buy some pottery or some ceramics for your house. They do really cool glazed vases and lamps and all that kind of thing. So it's like, yeah, we've moved house recently, we'll get some for the house. But one of the skills my wife has, particularly impressive, is to be able to sniff out by far the most expensive thing in a situation where it doesn't need to be. And what she actually found was this pot that she really liked, which turns out wasn't made in this town in Spain, which is famous for pottery, and therefore was really expensive. It was actually made on the edge of the Sahara. And it's from a town called Zagora. It's Zagora pottery, and it's sort of handmade out of quite thick clay and then fired in these pits. I've watched some videos on it. It's quite spectacular. Awesome thing. Weighs about 60 kilos. It's sort of, I'll put a video of it. It's tall, really heavy, and we managed to get in the back of the car and bring that home. But I read online that they're quite cheap if you buy them from the town where they're actually made on the edge of the Sahara, because nobody's got any money there. So something that's like 600 euros in Spain is like 50 euros in the Sahara. And to be honest, I'd want 450 euros to bring that back from there to Spain. But if we're passing by anyway, maybe grab a few, sell a few on the way back. I don't know. So that's my that's going to be my souvenir that I'm picking up on the way home. Is a vase or some kind of earthenware pottery from Zagora on the edge of the Sahara. It looks pretty cool. I don't know if there's a road across the Sahara, so we might have to go round one way or the other. I think one way is a war zone, the other way is, I don't know, probably needs, some of that change I have from the 25,000 might need to spend some of it on bulletproof vests or something. I don't know. But it sounds like it's going to be a cool adventure anyway. So that's me. Who's next?
Well, it'd be mine, I suppose, because I got the next budget. If we're talking about cars we've owned and things, I did own a BMW 2002 a long time ago. It was a rock box, but obviously I've also gone to South Africa and I've gone to a town called Sanderton, where I bought a 1972 BMW 2002. Was a 2-litre one, manual, 4-speed, absolutely unmodified. It's only done 60,000 miles, and I've just paid £46,000 from it. It's got all its original books, manuals. Probably a little bit too expensive for a 2002. But it is, if you look, I'm sure you've got a picture you can put up. It is a very clean one, a very exciting edition. That might even be in dollars, that price. I'm not sure. But I'm going to bring it.
Rare in South Africa. Do you think that's why it's expensive?
I think so, yeah. It's quite a luxury car for South African territories, isn't it?
Well, it was quite wealthy at that point in time, wasn't it? There were a lot of wealthy people there in the 60s, 70s in South Africa.
Yeah, yes.
But because I know there's a lot of Italian cars there, but I don't know whether there's a lot of German cars or not. I don't know.
There was quite a few, I think. Even on some of the Top Gear things, I think there's been. I've always had the impression there's quite a few BMWs, and they survive. Yeah,
there is a lot of Mercedes. Just touching on something you said about driving it back, the route I was going to go is via the Trans-Sahara Highway, which is all tarmac, 13,021 kilometres to Stamford.
Non-stop?
Which would take, this is an interesting fact, without any brakes, 176 hours. And my souvenir, slightly different to yours. Mine's very illegal because one of South Africa's most prized animals is the jackass penguin. Most people don't even know that they have penguins in South Africa.
Can you just say
but
that
I managed to find an illicit trader in stuffed, taxidermied jackass penguins, of which I bought one for just £200.
I thought you were going to bring a live penguin back with you.
No, what would you do with that? Just make a mess in the car, wouldn't it? Ruin its beautiful interior. So I'm bringing back a jackass penguin with stolen diamond eyes.
126 hours, did you say, to drive?
176 hours.
So we could do that this weekend.
Yeah.
Let's drive to South Africa and just take turns.
No. Why don't we fly to South Africa and drive back in that?
Like a week.
I think we fly out to South Africa. It saves time.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
120 hours is 5 days, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
a long weekend.
So driving.
That's what I tell people at
like
work.
A week.
I've got Starlink. It'll work anywhere.
That's what I tell people at work when I'm going away for a weekend.
Yeah.
It's just a weekend. I'm sure it's 7 days. No. Yeah.
Unless you're one of your employees, then it's definitely 2 days.
Cool. Very good. Who's next?
Chris?
So I'm up next. So I had 50 to 75. So I looked around and I have to admit, I really fancied a BMW, but I ran into a couple of problems. So they did a 6-cylinder E30. So they did a 333i, but I simply can't find one and I can't afford one on that budget, sadly. I thought I was going to be able to because that's something I've considered over the years.
They didn't do that in England, did they? The 3.3?
No, they never put a 6-cylinder in there. But that was a
6-cylinder, not a 3 litre.
It
was a 3-litre 6-cylinder.
Yeah. You could get a 6-cylinder in the UK, but not a 3 litre.
Is it 325 or something?
I thought it was only ever a 4-pot in the UK.
No, 325.
Yeah, 325.
Definitely. Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, never thought about that.
But 3 litres, that's interesting.
Yeah. I also looked at a 745i, which has the M8. I think it's the M88, which is the the motorsport engine from the M1 in it. But again, I could find them just about in budget, but they'd be autos and they're not a particularly interesting looking. They're not a particularly fun looking car or anything. It's not something I'd necessarily go out away for. It'd be probably quite nice to drive back. So I managed to find, in the end, I actually went for an Alpha GTV V6.
Nice.
50,000. So this had the 3-litre V6 in it rather than the 2.5-litre Busso in there.
You couldn't get that in England either, could you?
No, you couldn't get that. And it's also with motorsport. A lot of it was motorsport, I think. It was my understanding was for Group 1 racing. So that's where, like, the BMW 535i, there was quite a few different cars which all seemed to have different engines in. The BMW having the 3 litre was for different. I can't off the top of my head remember what that was for. There was a reason why they put that in there. I think it was because to compete with something else similar in the market, they felt it was underpowered. Right. But completely unmolested. But it has got, as per the original, it's got fiberglass wings, fiberglass bonnet with the scoop and everything. It actually, if it wasn't so expensive, I really like it. It's got all original seats, everything. It even has air conditioning in it. Pure luxury.
Definitely won't work.
Well, I've got 25k to make sure it is working by the time I fly out there.
So how much was it?
Sorry, 50,000 on the button. 50,000 on the button.
It's a lot for a GTV6, but it's a nice car, isn't it? That is.
Well, only 220 of them made like this.
Yeah.
I mean, again, still a lot of money, but it's in Cape Town, so I don't endorse it at all, but I know it's probably something Phil would rather enjoy. I was going to steal a road sign from Chapman's Peak, which is a 9-kilometre scenic coastal route around Cape Town, which has 114 curves and bends on it. I did fancy going down to the Alfa Romeo factory, but as it was going to add on about another 2,000 kilometres, I think, onto my trip, I decided that, as Phil's already pointed out, 13,000 odd kilometres is too far as it is. So yeah, settled on just stealing a road sign.
So that's what I was alluding to earlier. Is Alfa Romeo actually had a factory in South Africa, didn't they? At that point in time, and that's why there's so many Alfas out there.
Right.
It was something to do with import taxes into South Africa. I can't remember the exact facts. But what they used to do is they'd build the cars in kits in Italy, and then they'd ship out like a half-built kit, and it'd get assembled then in South Africa, and they could sell them cheaper in South Africa because of that, and that's why there's loads of Alfas there. And the reason why you get so many imported here is because they don't rust, because there's no salt on the roads or anything like that. So a lot of the imported South African Alfas are really good shape. And like I say, they do weird ones with different engines and things that you couldn't buy here. There was a big racing scene there, wasn't it? And again, it seems strange now to think of like Africa as having an Alfa Romeo factory and having like this big racing scene. But yeah, that was the case. I think it was quite a cool time. But yeah, sorry, what were you going to say, Chris?
I was just going to actually comment on that, but I just wanted to make sure that I pointed out that my souvenir showed me as a Renegade, which was one of the, rather than buying a pot, which I'm not quite sure how that shows you as a Renegade car enthusiast.
What I was smuggling inside that pot, Chris. That's all I'm saying.
And I think I did point out that my Penguin had stolen diamond eyes.
I thought it was a Jap eye. Sounded like what you said.
He's a renegade because he's bringing a dead penguin home. I mean, who does that?
He's got stolen diamond eyes. I'm saying.
Are they blood diamonds?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's Ed bought then?
Okay, so obviously this week I've got the top budget.
That's because you're our top shopper, Ed.
Exactly. So I thought I should get something pretty caddish with my 100 grand. So I thought I'd get myself a Jag. And I found a Jag which I didn't actually know existed. It's called a Jaguar XK140. Which is basically it's an XK120 but with increased suspension travel, which I figured for driving across Africa is probably quite a...
So it's like a Dakar Jag.
Kind of. Very loosely. But yeah, so 1954, 3.4 litre XK140, which I thought would be quite a cool car for me and my co-pilot to drive back in. And obviously, if this is a Jag, my co-pilot would have to be female. So reasonably quick, 190 horsepower, which I think in 1954 is pretty impressive. Gives it a top speed at sort of in excess of 120, which I'd be, obviously as a Jag driver, I'd be exploiting. It's also right-hand drive, which I thought when I get home, it's great because I've got right-hand drive Jag when I get back into the UK.
They drive on the right-hand side, don't they, in South Africa?
Yeah.
So I think most of them are.
Yeah. So obviously I can join in with you guys on the road trip because we're all in South Africa, which is slightly ironic. I was more concerned about hijacking than you guys seem to be. So I've invested my money on GPS trackers and guns. But also, because I'm a Jag driver, I'm going to have a boot full of wine, because obviously South Africa's big with wine. So my plan is to drink a few bottles of wine whilst I'm driving home.
Oh, right. Okay.
Anyone comes near me, I'll shoot them. So that's the plan.
Can anybody remember those BMWs in South Africa which had the flames come out the side?
Yes, and they were drifting, hanging out of the doors, didn't they?
I was hoping somebody was going to buy some kind of armoured vehicle that we could all run in and hide when we get attacked. What's interesting, though, is I think that all three of you guys, the cars you've bought, would be cheaper to buy in England.
Yeah, but you can't buy classic
I've
cars.
never
can't
seen
buy
this.
it.
She's ruined it.
Sorry? You all said that
You
at the
can't
same
buy the
time.
classic cars in England because she's ruined it now,
True,
hasn't she?
true. But at the moment, the reason why you'd buy, like, you know, there's a big import market from Italy, from South Africa to England, but obviously not for the three cars you guys have chosen because they're more expensive there than they are here. But weirdly, the little Lancia I think is cheap, £12,600. So what's that? $3,000 each. But
3.5 the shipping costs.
yeah. Well, I reckon we could negotiate that. But no, that was a good challenge. I enjoyed that. I would like to do a trip in Africa.
We have talked about it.
No, I know.
Let's not take Ed.
That is.
He's likely to get a shot.
Well, I think you'd do it to Morocco, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I would claim diplomatic immunity. And they wouldn't be able to shoot.
Why do you?
I don't know why. I just didn't want shooting.
I thought you were going to say
Pretty good
you're part
reason.
Moroccan.
That least like Moroccan person I've ever seen.
I don't know, that shirt.
Good. I enjoyed that one. That was a really good challenge, Ed. Well done. Phil, sorry, not Ed.
Yeah, well done, Phil.
Okay, so let's wind this up. So a bit of any other business. Sad news this week. Quinton Wilson has died. He was quite young, wasn't he? How old was he?
68.
68.
Yeah. Only been claiming his pension for 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, he's younger than you, Phil, isn't he?
Yeah, much.
No, I mean, probably a lot of like the generation below us, like probably don't really know who Quinton Wilson is, I guess. But I think him and Clarkson.
I beg to differ on that,
You think so?
Lewis, just because in the past few years, he's been a big advocate of EVs, which you millennials and such like all seem to like for some reason. So they may know him.
The only thing I've seen him on recently was like adverts for car warranties. That's all I can think about. But
He's from fifth gear, didn't he?
I don't remember. If
Wasn't he on fifth gear for
I don't remember.
I thought
I think
that's
the
where
top gear, wasn't
that's
he?
where I-
I mean, it was on the early top gears, wasn't he?
Yeah, so I think there was like a period in the 90s where Top Gear wasn't Top Gear as we would call it, with Clarkson, Howard and May, but it still had Clarkson in it. And it wasn't like 70s and 80s Top Gear where it was like almost a segment of the news, which is pretty much...
Angela Ripman.
Yeah, that's right. It was...
Was it Vicky Butler Henderson era?
Yeah, she was involved in it. Quinton and Tiff Nadell and Clarkson, and I think they were sort of starting to make like the car program a bit entertaining. I think as well, and I think, but Quinton was very much a facts and figures guy from what I can remember. Was he an old car dealer? Is that what his background was?
I think he was. Yeah, he's like. Yeah, but I suppose it was a bit like Boise and Only Fools and Horses, wasn't it?
Mm. But yeah, it's sad to hear that it was lung cancer, wasn't it? I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I remember reading. I've read a lot of the Clarkson's books and over the years, and he talked very fondly about Quinton all the time, how he was so eloquent and could write.
He was a proper gentleman, wasn't he?
Yeah, Clarkson would just be writing something with a knob joke in it or something like that, and then Quinton would be describing something, very sophisticated, coming up with words that Clarkson didn't know what they were at the time. He always looked up to him for that. So I mean, that's the only insight I have. I've obviously never met him or anything like that. But did you ever come across him at the motor shows, Ed, when you used to go?
Yeah, do you know? I was thinking about that when I was a kid. My dad used to take me to motor shows every year. And there used to be like a hall where the old Top Gear crew would talk. And I remember, I mean, this seems unbelievable now, given that it was probably only 30 years ago, but we used to throw packs of cigarettes into the audience.
Did you get some? Is that how it started?
Yeah, that was how the addiction started. One of my main memories, though, really, if I'm being honest, was Vicky Butler-Henderson. Sort of 10-year-old Ed fell in love.
That's how that started as well, wasn't it?
So Quinton Wilson, unfortunately, wasn't my sort of greatest memory. It was the cigarettes and Vicky Butler-Henderson. So.
That started your fascination with the older women. Yeah.
Oh, George, can't believe you just said that.
Yes. So, sorry, that's just thrown me sideways. But it's just sad. We shouldn't really be laughing. Sad news. But the sad reality is all those icons. I mean, I really, Top Gear was such a big part of my sort of love for cars and how that grew and built when I was in my late teens and early 20s. They're all getting to that age, aren't they?
We are.
Yeah, Phil's one of those icons as well. But no, I mean, at some point, Clarkson...
Definitely some sort of icon there, isn't he?
Motoring icon as Phil, yeah. But yeah, so...
I'd just like to bring up as something I've suffered with this week, and it's the pitfalls of buying online. I used a well-known auction site, and I bid on a socket set, and it turned up, and unfortunately, it wasn't quite what I expected, and it's broken, as you can see. So just be careful what you're buying, ladies and gents.
I saw some good retail products, actually, speaking of that. We were in Halfords at the weekend, which is what me and Phil do most weekends. We just drive to Halfords and then have a cup of tea and buy some cake.
Yes.
And they are selling socket set advent calendars. I thought, how good is that? You buy it and every day you open, there's a different socket in it or something. That's a brilliant idea. So...
But if a 13mm socket's on the 24th, you've got a long time till you fix your car, haven't you? So.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought that was really cool. I mean, it was about 30 quid, but it's quite a cool advent calendar. So.
I'm going to have to buy myself one because nobody buys one.
Yeah.
I need one that's just full of 10mm sockets. That's what every day is a new 10mm socket. Could have one for the whole year. That would be great. But yeah, good. Any other business from anybody?
No.
Nothing from me.
Okay. Well, thank you for everybody for tolerating us. Sorry about the small technical glitch that we had halfway through. Hopefully you enjoyed it this week. As I say, back to our normal format. Please comment and let us know some feedback on what we're doing well, what we're not. Please like it. That would be great. And subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you all very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Cheers, guys.